Siva, thank you so much for joining us on this next edition of the Fire Up series. This is a series of startup interviews that we are doing to just pick up on the experiences of the startup from a peer sharing standpoint. Every startup is doing something phenomenally well. We're just trying to pick up some facets of it, some relating to the downtown and others broader, even unrelated to the downtown. So with you, we wanted to discuss how do you use data and intelligence intelligence derived from data towards smart buildings and smart campus or smart living solutions, specifically smart building solutions. So as a case in point on how data can be used. So that's the topic for our current session today. So before we get started, Shiva, if you could quickly, in a couple of minutes, describe your journey with Indriyn so far.
Okay.
You get the idea, and then how's the journey been, and where are you today?
Okay. So thank you. And as I said, I'm Shiva. I'm a founder and CEO of this company. And we basically started this as an industrial IoT almost 3.5 years back. And what happens is we have applied this, data-driven technology, whatever the sensor technology and the AI and the ML and all those things, to industrials. But what happens is we could not see the scalability of the industrial solution since each industry works its own. So we quickly, come back to the drawing room and then see that where exactly we can really apply and scale up for the business. And after the research, what we have found is we have seen commercial real estate spaces with the right candidate to really apply this, the data-driven approach. When I say the commercial real estate, just an introduction, and any real estate has got 3 different phases. There is a design, construction, and the build. So we are in the build phase, and exclusively when I say that commercial real estate space, anything comes to the high-rise corporate buildings and technology parks and hospitals, hotels, and everything comes into the picture. So the main problem we have seen in the build environment, when I say the build environment, after the construction, this building is handing over to the operators or owner, or there is something called facility managers. So from there, actually, our journey starts there. So what we have found is there is a bigger problem in this build environment where these guys are using less technology than where they are using in the construction. And most of the times, these buildings are managed by the third-party, facility management guys. These IFM, companies are most of the times it is manually operated, and these buildings are having systems like building management systems and energy systems and water management and all those things, but these systems are not, talking to each other. So what we found is we are trying to get all the data of the multiple, locations and places of the building, and also see that where and all we can pull the existing, data from the existing systems too. So get all the data and apply this data to, the cloud, because we have built something called a CRE cloud, which is artificial intelligence driven algorithms and which are customized for the building operations. So each and every data point is travel through that algorithms, and it identifies what are the mispatterns, what are the anomalies, what are the abnormalities and all those things. And end of the day, we provide a tool set to the building operators. When I say building operators, it could be the technicians till that vice president of an operations. So provide multiple tools starting from the apps and web-based applications.
So Shiva, let's continue. So Shiva, when you start, you did mention that you get data from your customers and prospects also and use it. But when you start, when you go to your first customer or in any domain, you need to have something built already. So where did you get your base data from? For your first version 0 of your product.
Okay, yeah. It's a very tricky thing. What we have seen is because before we got into that, we done at least 5 to 6 weeks of a system study, and also what we found is we onboarded a facility management person, and who comes with a lot of offline data. What I mean is offline data is it is the maintenance data, operation data. When it comes to the real-time data, and we got one point, And the second thing is, it is not necessarily completely we should use and real-time data, because there is a business over there which is in a digitization of an operations and maintenance. So that was an entry point to the customer, not a completely an energy management when I say, because if you see my product portfolio, there are 4 components. One is the complete digitization of that, operations and maintenance. Second thing is, works on the sustainability, where the real-time data comes into the picture. And third thing, we call it as an asset intelligence, where, we bring all the data from all assets like chillers and pumps and all those things and process it. So, and precisely for your, question, we started as a non-real-time data entry. So that gives us an entry point and gives us a cushion to at least, camp in the customer base, at least, 4 to 5 weeks by the time we got all the data. That's what we started.
So when you show, you're just using digitizing for the initial demo and the initial value, you're saying digitizing is the value, and then the data-driven value you kind of present later.
Exactly. That's true.
So now, but still, for you to say train your models or kind of optimize the system, you still need to get some data for you to work on. So, so we're using customer data itself to do it, or did you find some other creative ways of finding data for you to build your model?
One is the customer real-time data. The second thing is, yes, we got some of the data sets out there. Some of the data sets, my data scientist has got it from some of the open source data sets are available exclusively when it comes to the chillers and, some of the, air conditions and all, they are available out there. But some of the data sets are really, we need to get it from the customer. And those data sets, it is not available online. That's the thing. And again, within this particular CRE, there are multiple, varieties of buildings, because the data sets of, hotels are different from the data sets of the corporate buildings, different from the data sets of the hospitals. So we slowly build up. That's why it takes at least 6 to 8 months to build a real intelligence in the back end. But till that time, yes, we have a different approach to go and camp there into the customer place. That is more on the times of digitization. Second thing is streamlining the all existing flows. Yes.
So I mean, like, how long does it take? I mean, even assuming you use public data sets and build some models, and like you said, once you start getting data from a customer or a prospect, then you kind of tweak it for their data also. How long does it take for a customer to see value from your data insights?
At least it takes 2 months to customer can realize the benefit out of my system in the data-driven way. As I said, till that time, there are other 2 components which can, up and run, and they can immediately utilize after, within a week's time.
So how do you communicate to them saying that, okay, 2 months is worth the wait? I mean, what value do you show that they would see at the end of the 2 months that they are okay to wait?
Yeah. As I said, first, for the first week onward, they can really see that, streamlining the entire existing process, that operations and maintenance. It could be something called, preventive maintenance. There are a lot of checklists out there. We export the checklist. There are places where they use just, paper-based system. We completely digitize to the mobile and all. And in the second month onwards, we see the patterns of that, how these, equipments are behaving. For example, if it is a chiller out there, and because one of the real-time example, one of the high-rise building of, 0.25 lakh square feet building over here, one of our customer. In the compressors, out of, instead of running 2 compressors, it is taking 4 compressors for the same load, which we have observed after, 40-45 days by, looking at the data, by looking at the current patterns, by looking at the, inside temperatures. So after that, what happens is we can suggest them, because this system suggests them what to do in order to, cut their cost of energy bills and all. So till that time, yes, it is an observation period, but still there is something out there customer can engage constantly from the 5th day onwards. So that is a value add. Anyway, they will see that. After 2 months, they'll really say the value add of the equipment and energy and liquidity. That is called a sustainability. That's good.
So, so in short, I mean, what you're saying is like, however long it takes for the customer to see value in their environment, you need to have something in between for them from the first day itself. Like in your case, you're telling them, look, I'm going to digitize your assets first. So you can see all your assets in a digital. So that's it. That's value. You can monitor it, another value that you're offering. You're saying that, okay, these assets I not only can I digitize, but I also can monitor. And then you're saying that in the first couple of weeks, you can start showing some alerts, which is not based on deep insight, but you can still start showing some alerts that give value. So you're saying that you need to kind of get them some value from the beginning until you can derive the complete value coming out of the AI and data.
Yeah, that's true. Because there is a tangible and non-tangible. Like one is a tangible benefit from the day first itself. Like instead of they are managing the entire building with say, 18 MEP like mechanical, electrical, plumbing staff. In maybe the 1 month time they can do the same thing with 15 people. That's what the productivity change. The second thing is instead of they are taking a time of taking all the meter readings maybe 2.5 days. Instead of that they can do everything within 2.5 hours. So these are the non-tangible benefit they can do that. But when it really comes to the efficiency and sustainability, yes, after 3-4 months they can really see that what could be the difference of maybe their utility bills like. That's what customer really see that tangible benefit of that. But non-tangibility includes that increasing the asset life and everything else.
So have you had cases where like the customers were not happy with either sharing data or they're not happy with the time it takes to see the value from the data?
Very few, because as I said, see, our solution is structured such a way that in the 4 components, there are 2 components which is coming as a sustainability components. Customer need not to necessarily take it, because the entire 4 component works. If they really take it, 4 components works great. They can even sustain with the 2 components, but it could be complete digitization of that existing processes and all. But the 2 things now, one is some of the customers are reluctant to give their data on the cloud. For that we have something called a private cloud concept, but very rarely people utilize it. And if it is the very latest buildings, which is already chillers and all very much optimized, and they don't see that the greatest value of it, because it is already optimized. And then if I say that 1 year and less than 1 year old buildings, but 85% of the buildings are more than 5 years old buildings. So very rare cases, yes, there is at least 5 to 6%.
So obviously the more data you get from more of your deployments, the better your algorithms will get.
Exactly.
Now, are they okay with sharing the data to improve your algorithms in general?
See, there are 2 kinds. See, some of the corporate companies, there are some financial companies out there. Here itself we have got an experience. After we demo and then we put the digitization and other things. So once it comes to the bringing the data from the equipment, then they raise the flag, because they have a lot of security requirements. They don't want to share their data at all out of their framework. Those kind of places, yes, we have to take a step back, because going and approaching them and creating a heavy infrastructure to highly secure data with the same price, it is not viable. So those kind of times, what happens, we only give them 2 modules and 2 modules we don't give. But if they agree for a private cloud and all, yes, it can be. But most of the times, go for a private cloud, it doesn't make much sense as a business person, because they have to buy the licenses, because everything goes to the premises.
Okay. So that's interesting. I think these are challenges that I think any data-driven AI startup will have to deal with, right? I mean, you can get started with some data, but you need to enrich it with your actual customers and their whatever information you can get from the customer. You use that to enrich your model. So these are challenges that I think every startup will. So what would be one of your...
Exactly. These are the real challenges.
Yeah, so they have to find some creative ways, and I think the point you made is very interesting, it's very relevant, that you need to make sure there's some value that the customer sees from the beginning. So ensure there are some subsystems or modules where some value starts coming in beginning, even before the AI value starts to kick in. So I think that's a good suggestion. So Siva, before we wrap up, can you, from your journey as an entrepreneur, like as a long time, somebody in the space for a long time, and also basically from Indriyn's experience, what would be one growth hack tip that you would give any other startup that they could follow to accelerate?
Yeah, see, what I have seen is like everybody says, like, you need to really track the time, like how much time you're really spending on that, because that's what even we little failed, because the first shifting from industrial IoT to this, it took at least 1.5 years, which is still an expensive experiment. So maybe we start with something, and then maybe customer drives in a different way, and if you see that the business opportunity out there, you better go there with the same framework and all the things. Second thing, what I have seen is maybe you start something and do something like 30 to 40%, and let customer test it, and then get the feedback from the customer and do that. But here my point is like business case drives everything, like use case drives everything, and the domain drives everything. Because still in Indian scenarios, what happens, though we are talking about an IoT, AI, and computer vision, in fact, these three we are using it. But these builders and then IFM doesn't have any idea of it. Even the people like the leadership team talks about it, but they are still reluctant to install in there because they are very happy with the status quo. So to break the status quo, you have to really go there and then at least tweak one of their use case, which is painful, and apply your entire thing. Then they listen to you, and then once they listen to you, you can just put whatever the innovations in there. Because it's a bigger problem with an innovative product like niche products, because it doesn't have any track, and then you need to really break their status quo. That is a big problem even we were facing earlier. So my thing is like you tweak their business case and apply your strategies there, and show something, and then go ahead. That works out. But again, you need to be flexible enough to maybe you need to little change in the direction, if not to be completely adamant about your tech and all things. That only working out.
I think that's a very important point. I'm just making a note. So it's a very important point that should the data and AI should address, right, some specific problem. So that, like you're saying, make sure there's a use case and go after the use case and not be stuck upon the technology. Be focused more on the use case and the value that the customer is looking for.
Right.
So that's very nice. So Siva, thank you so much. I think we have hit our time limit. So thanks for taking time, and hope everyone at Indriyn is safe. And thank you for joining us today, Siva.
Thank you very much, Ramesh. Thank you.